Hi, my name is Samir Mohammed, and in this session we're going to go ahead and see what lists and libraries are and learn how to discover the various lists and libraries in a site, create a list, add and edit list items, create a library, create a new document in a library, edit and add documents in a library, check documents in and out from a library, work with version history, create a new folder in a list or a library, edit, delete, and remove list and library columns, sort and filter a list and library, delete and restore list items and documents, set up alerts, follow documents, and sync a library to your computer. So in general, this session is all about document, library, and the list. What are the different things that you can do with the library as well as with the list? How do you add columns? What are the advanced features of documents like version history and check-in, checkout? What does it mean by check-in, checkout? So these are some of the advanced settings of a library that we're gonna and the list that we're gonna be looking into now. So a list, consider a list as spreadsheet that you and your co-workers can simultaneously use on the internet. Lists provide an effective way to work with all types of data. SharePoint lists represent editable, web-based tables that facilitate concurrent, multi-user interactions against a common centralized extensible set of columns and rows. All of the web pages needed to create, review, update, delete, and manage a list and its content, which is its data, like the list items, are automatically and dynamically generated by SharePoint. Libraries. Libraries can be thought of as a list of files. Libraries are a great place to store documents or forms. Using SharePoint document libraries, you can filter and group documents, as well as view metadata for documents stored in the library. And when I say metadata, I mean the columns. What are the columns that basically define this file? If there are any other columns that you think you might want to define, you might want to create in a library which further define this document, then those columns are known as metadata. They basically just define what the document is all about. Let's go ahead and review some of the out-of-the-box libraries. The asset library creates an asset library to share. Asset library to share and manage digital media assets such as image, audio, and video files. An asset library provides content types with properties and views for managing and browsing media assets such as thumbnails and metadata keywords. An asset library might be something that you might actually end up using a lot. Dashboard libraries. This is to create a dashboard library to contain performance point deployment dashboards. Now, performance point is a pretty advanced topic, and it's a different software that Microsoft has acquired back in 2010, and the sole purpose of performance point is to just create dashboards, KPIs, graphs, charts, and it's a pretty enormous product, and it's a pretty detailed product. There are jobs just on performance point, and we will cover dashboard libraries down the line when we do performance point. But as of right now, dashboard libraries is something that you might not be using a lot. Data connection library. This is a library to simplify the maintenance and management of data connections. This is again something that you might not be using a lot. So I think that we could just go ahead and skip over the data connection library. Document library, this is the most basic one, and create a document library when you have a collection of documents or other files that you want to share. Document libraries support features such as folders, versions, and checkout. You're going to be using document libraries all throughout the SharePoint projects. It is one of the most mandatory repositories, and you will be using it for storing files and doing a lot of different things with document libraries. Form library, create this form library when you have XML based business forms. Now this is something which is associated with a product known as InfoPath. We're going to be learning InfoPath as well. InfoPath is a tool which is used for designing forms, and this tool is XML based. So the form library is a library which is used for storing XML based business forms. Picture library Create a picture library when you have pictures you want to share. Record library. Create a record library to keep a central repository for storing and managing your organization's records or important business documents. So this is something which is going to be like a company has got tax records, and these tax records are supposed to be stored for 7 years, and after that they can be deleted. So these can be stored as records in a record library, and it's possible to set policies on a record library to kind of like auto delete or purge documents, purge tax records, or purge receipts which are more than 7 years old. Report library. Create a report library to simplify creating, management, and delivery of web pages, documents, and key performance indicators of metrics and goals. The report library is a central place where you can create and save reports and dashboards. So consider it as a library where you would be storing reports and dashboards. Process diagram library. This is a pretty new one, and you will not be using this a lot. Wiki page library. This is something which you would be using a lot. It helps you create a wiki page library when you want to have an interconnected collection of wiki pages that enable multiple people to gather information in a format that is easy to create and modify. Wiki page libraries support pictures, tables, hyperlinks, and internal wiki linkings. So consider a wiki page library as Wikipedia, which lets you store several different articles, all interlinked with each other. When you click on a certain wiki page, like a page for SharePoint, and down at the bottom it's got links pointing to Microsoft, or links pointing to different versions of SharePoint, or links pointing to administration of SharePoint or development of SharePoint. So these might be all links on the same page, and there's a special way which we're going to see down the line how wiki page library stores them and keeps them interconnected with each other. This is just exactly replicating the functionality of Wikipedia. Let's go ahead and take a look at out-of-the-box lists. Now, out of all the libraries that we just discussed, the document library, the forms library, and the Wikipedia library would be the one that you use the most. Coming down to lists, there might be a lot of lists that you would be using. Announcement list. Create an announcement list when you want a place to share news, status, and other short bits of information. Like when a bunch of users log into the home page of a site, or home page of a company website, which is an intranet. When I say a home page of a site, I mean the intranet site. You're going to have announcements. There's definitely a place where HR or IT or other, or managers would actually like to do announcements. And these announcements would actually expire after a certain date. These announcements could be holidays. These announcements could be an audit coming up. These announcements could be, just weather conditions not permitting, weather permissions being pretty bad. So you might just want to work from home. So, and these kind of announcements come with an expiry. So announcements list lets you create announcements with certain expiry on them, and there's a way that you can actually hide the expired announcements. We're going to do a lot more announcements down the line. Calendar. Create a calendar list when you want a calendar-based view of upcoming messages, deadlines, other important events. You can share information between your calendar list and Microsoft Office Outlook. Calendar is something that every team uses, and it's a very basic app, and you're going to be using this over and over again. Circulations. Create a circulation list when you want a publication to be sent to a specific recipient. This list is new with SharePoint 2013. Feel free to explore it, but you might not be using this a lot. Contacts. Create a contacts list when you want to manage information about people with whom your team works, such as customers or partners. You can share information between your contacts list and Outlook as well. Contacts list is a pretty old list, and you're going to see that this is something that you're going to be using over and over again. Custom list. Now, create a custom list when you want to specify your own columns. even though you can specify your own columns in all the other lists. But a custom list is just plain vanilla list with just a couple columns in it, and you can use a custom list to go ahead and create a list which fits your specific need. For example, an inventory list, an inventory of all the office supplies. Nothing like that comes pre-built within SharePoint. So use a custom list to go ahead and create something which suits your needs, and we're gonna see how you can go ahead and create columns and make the custom list suit your need. Custom list in datasheet view. Create a custom list in datasheet view when you want to specify your own columns. The list opens in a spreadsheet-like environment for convenient data entry, editing, and formatting. Discussion boards. Create a discussion board when you want to provide a place for newsgroup style discussions. Discussion board provides features for managing discussion threads and ensuring that only approved posts appear. External list. Now, external list is a very special kind of a list. There's a way that SharePoint lets you configure SharePoint with other applications. Let's just say that this company already has a customer relationship module or an SAP implementation or a Siebel implementation. So all these are different softwares. They have their own databases. But SharePoint has got a certain service application built within it, using which you can configure SharePoint to connect to the database of these other applications, retrieve the data from them, and show them within SharePoint as lists. And those lists are known as external lists. They are very special lists, and they are known as the external list. Import spreadsheet. Import a spreadsheet when you want to create a list that has the same columns and content as an existing spreadsheet. Importing a spreadsheet requires Microsoft Office Excel. Issue tracking. Create an issue tracking list when you want to manage a set of issues or problems. You can assign, prioritize, and follow the progress of issues from start to finish. KPI list. Create a KPI list to track key performance indicators and to display the status of the indicator on a dashboard page. You can set up KPI lists to track performance by using one of four data sources: manually enter data, data in SharePoint list, data in Excel workbook, or data from SQL Server analysis services. Now, in short, KPI list is a very special kind of list where you can actually develop key performance indicators, more kind of like those indicators that you might have seen on TV with arrow marks going up or arrow marks going down, specific to stocks, and some of them might be red, some of them might be green. So those are kind of like KPIs, key performance indicators. Key performance indicators kind of like encapsulate the whole functionality of how a business runs, and just within that green or red arrow pointing upwards or downwards, you can just take a look at it and you can see how this business is actually doing. So that's a pretty good example of KPIs. So KPI list can actually be used to track key performance indicators. Language and translators. Create a language and translators list to use with a translation management workflow. This is fairly new with SharePoint 2013, and you might not use this for the most part. Links is a pretty common list again. Create a links list when you have links to web pages or other resources that you want to share. Key performance point content list. We can just go ahead and skip this because this is associated with performance point. Project tasks. Create a project task list when you want a graphical view of a group of work items that you and your team need to complete. This is a very specific task list, and you might be using it when you're working on projects and you want to go ahead and give a graphical view of the project tasks. Promoted links. Create a promoted links list to display a set of link actions in a visual layout. Again, promoted list is something that you might not be using a lot. Status list. Create a status list to display and track the goals of your project. This list includes a set of colored icons to communicate the degree to which goals are met. Again, status list is very specific to statuses. If you're not working on statuses, you might never use this. Survey. survey is a pretty powerful list. It is used to create surveys when you want to poll other website users. Survey provides features in which you can quickly create questions and define how users specify their answers. Tasks. Create a task list when you want to track a group of work items that you or your team must complete. Now let's go ahead and browse to see the list and libraries. Click on the site settings over here and then go to site content and click on add an app. When you do this, this is going to show you all the different lists and libraries that you have within SharePoint. The noteworthy ones are document library, custom lists, and tasks. Apps you can add, there are a lot more. Document libraries, form library, wiki page library, picture library, list, announcements, contacts, calendar, discussion board, task. And what you can do is that you can just click on any of these and go ahead and create a brand new list or library. Now let's go ahead and create a list, a buyer task list. There's going to be a list of type task where all the buyers of a company are going to enter their tasks. So again, go to site contents and click on add an app, and it's going to bring you to your apps. And I'm going to go ahead and find tasks over here. Click on tasks, and in here I'm going to enter buyer tasks, and I'm going to enter this without a space in between. If I have a space in the name, then SharePoint does HTML encoding on it, and the space is converted over to some very weird characters like &20, &f. So it's a good idea not to have any spaces in the name of the library or the columns when you create them. There's a way after you create them you can go back and then modify the name, and that name can have spaces in it. So why don't we just go ahead and create a library right now with no spaces in it. Buyer task, click on create, and this just creates my buyer task list, and you can see over here it says new. Also on the left hand side I can see the new buyer task that I created under the recent category over here. So if I click on the home page and go back to the home page, I can find the buyer task under recent. I click on that and it's going to take me to the buyer task list over here. Now let's go ahead and see how I can rename the buyer task to have a space between buyer and task, something which is more user friendly. Now before I do that, I want to go ahead and shed some light on the URL over here. The URL has got LearnSP demo, and all the way till here is basically the name of the page. But after this, and you're going to see this over and over again, all the lists are created under the list category. So you're always going to see, for any list that you see, you're going to see list and then the name of the list. And in my case, the name of the list is buyer task without the space in here. And anything that follows after buyer task is the name of the view that I'm on right now. All items.aspx is the name of the view that I'm on right now of the buyer task. We're going to talk a lot more about views down the line, but as of right now I just want to go ahead and explain to you how you can follow, or what does the URL mean. So anything after the list is basically the name of the list that you're in right now. So let's click on, once you go to the buyer task list, then the tabs up in the top look different now. There's tasks and there's lists. Now I want to modify the name of this list, so I'm going to go in list settings. Click on list settings, and it's going to take you to the list setting page of the buyer task. The first one on the left under general settings is list name, description, and navigation. Click on that, and it's going to take you to a page which is the general settings of the list. And over here I see the name buyer task one single word with no space. Click right in between and create a space over here, and write down a description, which is buyer tasks are entered in here. Navigation, display this list on the quick launch. If I click on yes, then it's going to appear on the quick launch. Right now it appears only under recent. Here on save, go back to the buyer task, and you're going to see, go back to the home page, and you're going to see that the buyer task now appears in the quick launch outside the recent category. Click on buyer task, and you can see that the buyer task has got a space in between, which is a good thing. So it's very user friendly. But if you take a look at the URL, which was the original name, the real name of the list is still buyer task with no space in it. What I have right now is basically an alias name. So what you have to understand is that every single time when you create a brand new list, always create it with no spaces or special characters in it. And what you create the list with in the beginning would be the name of the list for the life cycle of the list till the list or library is deleted. You can always go back and give it an alias name. I can go back and give it any other name instead of buyer task. I can give it developer task, but the original name is always going to be buyer tasks. Now let's go ahead and review the different views of the task list. I'm going to go back to the list button over here up in the top, and these buttons over here in this section over here has got, under manage views, has got create view, modify view, create column, current view. And if I click on these different views over here, then the views that I can see from here, and they have been created by default when I created this list. These are several different views. The all task view that I'm on right now shows me all the tasks which exist in the system, and the name of the view, as I said, is all task. And up in the URL, you're going to see that the name of the page is all items.aspx. If I go back to the list, and then if I select like my tasks, which basically is configured to show only my task, and since there are none, it doesn't show me anything. But the page up in the top changes. Now it's my item.aspx. So there could be several different views, and down the line we're going to do a lot more with the views of a list and library. Let's go ahead and view the list settings and see what are the different list settings that a list has. This is going to be a very brief overview of the list settings. We're going to have detailed session on the list settings down the line. Go to the list tab and click on the list settings. And this section over here gives the general settings and has some different options over here, which we're going to be discussing some of these pretty soon. And there's going to be the list of columns down at the bottom and different views all the way down at the bottom. So these are some of the different views that I was talking about, and we can go ahead and create more views depending on on conditions or criteria that you have. Up in the top over here, again, these are the columns. These are the columns that this list comes with, that this task list comes with. It's possible to go ahead and create more columns. Now let's go ahead and add and edit list items. Go back to the buyer task and click on new task. When I click on new task, it's going to take me to the new task entry form. In here, I'm going to go ahead and enter the task create vendor SharePoint list. And I'm going to say the start date is the 29th and the end date is the 5th, which is I give this guy 1 week. Click on save, and I just saved my first task. Click on new task again and enter ensure vendor access is the second task. Click on the start date, which gonna be the 8th, and it's gonna run from the 8th of September to 12th. Hit on save. Now, in case if I have more tasks, something that I can do very easily is click on edit this list, and this opens up inline editing. Now this behaves just like Excel, and I can just go ahead and type out my new task instead of switching between new form and the list itself, and this is a little more productive. So identify products to purchase, give it a date. It's gonna be the 8th. And then generate purchase order, give it a date. It's gonna be 15th, and then notify receiving about purchase. Give it any date, let's just say 22nd. And when I'm done, this basically, as soon as I move out from the record to another record, SharePoint saves that record. I can click on stop editing this list, and it's going to take me back to the regular list view. Now let's go ahead and edit the task to indicate completed. So I'm going to try editing this task over here. I can check mark this over here, go up in task, and click on edit item. Click on edit item, or I can just click on this ellipse over here and click on open. And over here I can click on edit item again, and it's going to let me edit this. Now this time I'm going to indicate that this task has been completed 100% and indicate this task is completed. Hit on save, and it saves my task. It automatically just check marks it, saying that it's actually done. Now let's go ahead and add all the tasks to timeline. I'm going to go ahead and select all these tasks over here, and now go to task up in the top, and I see add to timeline over here. When I click on add to timeline, then all these tasks are going to be added to the timeline right here, just like how you saw it. This gives me a graphical view of all my tasks. This shows me that create vendor list. This gives me a graphical view of all my tasks. The first task, create vendor SharePoint list, runs through August the 29th to September the 5th. My second task, identify products to purchase, starts from here and ends till here. The third task, generate purchase order, is over here, and so is the notify receive about purchase. So a timeline does a pretty good job of giving me a graphical representation of all my tasks. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can go ahead and attach attachments like documents to tasks, like generate purchase order. Let's go ahead and edit this. Let's go ahead and select this and go ahead and edit it. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach a purchase order which has been generated. Click on attach file, choose file, and browse to the location of the file, which is, let's just say this file over here, purchase order, and click on OK and save it. As soon as I save this, and I can go back to generate purchase order, and it has the attachment purchase order.doc. Now that we're done with an overview of the list, let's go ahead and create libraries. Again, libraries are used to store files, whereas lists are used to store other types of content. A library is used to create, collect, update, and manage files with other team members. It displays a list of files and key information about the files. The key information about the files can actually be stored in columns, and it's known as metadata of the document. Let's go ahead and create a document library. And the name of this document library is going to be furniture. So let's go to the settings icon and then click on add an app. And let's click on document library, because we're going to go ahead and create a document library now. And enter the name furniture. This creates a furniture document library. I can click on it, and it's going to take me to the furniture page. One thing that we're going to realize looking at the URL is, unlike the lists, which are always followed by the list, document libraries are not. What I mean is, if I go to the buyer task, which was a list, then you're going to see that under the buyer task, before the buyer task is the list. The buyer task is followed by the list. So all the lists are underneath the lists umbrella, but the document libraries are not. There's no list or libraries before that. So now let's go ahead and upload our document. I can click on files, and then I can click on upload document here and choose files. Go to where my document is and click on open and click on OK. And this uploads the document library. This uploads the furniture document to my furniture's document library. Other ways of uploading it as well is by dragging and dropping. I can just go to my desktop, drag it, find its way back, and then just put it right in here. And it just uploaded my second document. So these are a couple different ways of uploading it. There's one other way which we're gonna see pretty soon. Now I can go ahead and edit the document by clicking on edit over here, and this document is going to open up in Microsoft Word in the browser if I had the right configuration setup, which I don't right now. This requires Microsoft Web Apps Server to be configured to have the Word documents open in the browser. If I actually had that installed on my server, then this document would just open up right in the browser. Now, right now, if I click on it, it just does not. But what I could, of course, do is that I can go ahead and download it by clicking on download a copy, and then I can, download it to my local machine, just like how we just downloaded it, edit it, and I can upload it back again. When I upload it back again, the new version gets uploaded. Like I open up purchase order and I write down test 2 and buy more computers. Okay, hit on save, or actually I'm gonna go ahead and save it on the desktop again so that I can actually find my way back with the same name, of course. And there's already a file on the desktop. I'm saying they're just going to replace that, close it down, and now I'm going to go ahead and upload that file. Choose file and go ahead and find my way back to the desktop, and find the document, which is purchase order. Click on open and go ahead and upload it. So you see that SharePoint was smart enough to not create another version of the document, but since the name is the same, it just updated the same document with the new version. If I go ahead and download this again, and if I take a look at it, then you're going to see that this is the new version of the document that I just uploaded. So uploading documents. So as I was talking about, there are several different ways of uploading the document. One is by using the upload button up in the ribbon. The second one is dropping the file in the drag and drop section of the document library. The third one is using the file explorer. And using the file explorer is pretty interesting. It gives a completely different perspective to using the document library. Let's go ahead and use it right now. So I go to my furniture list, of course, click on the files, and within the files I'm going to go ahead and see the file explorer. Actually, I apologize, it's under the library tab, and it's this option over here, open with Explorer. When I click on open this Explorer, it's going to open up in the Windows Explorer, in the file explorer of Windows. The reason why this is disabled right now is because I'm using Chrome. So I'm going to switch over to Internet Explorer and see if this is enabled. Yes, so this is IE, and I can see this option over here under the library, and I click on open with Explorer. Takes a little bit of time, but it opens up my furniture document library in the Windows Explorer, and this just changes the whole perspective. I can just go ahead and now I can just treat this as a file, as a folder under my Windows file system. I can copy all the files, I can delete all the files together, I can create new files, I can drop as many files as I want in here, all at the same time, and this is going to be a lot more productive. Okay, so this is the option of using with File Explorer. The last option, which is using sync, it's actually SYNC, sync, to upload the document stored offline, is basically using the option up in the top. And the beauty about this option is that it actually stores an offline copy on my file system, and I can just go ahead and edit it, and when I'm online again, it's going to go ahead and upload it to the document library. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the check-in checkout functionality which exists within a document library. Checkin Checkout is a feature of document library. It lets others know what documents you are working on so that others can work on them at the same time. When you check out file, you log the file for your editing and prevent others from editing it at the same time. So which means that when you check it out, you are basically checking it out for yourself. You know, it's checking it out in your plate, and you can be the only person who can edit it, and everybody else will get a read-only version of that file. They cannot edit that file. When you are done, you check in the file so that others can check out and edit it. So the only person who can edit a certain file is the one who has checked it out. Once you are done with the checkout, you go ahead and check it in. When checking in the file so that others can work on it, you can enter comments also which others can view. Now let's go ahead and do a demo of Checkin Checkout. Let's select a document and check it out, and then check it in when we are done. Let's go to my furniture, and I already have a document over here which is furniture. I click on this document, go to files, and up in the top I see the checkout. When I check it out, I click on checkout, and it exclusively checks out the file for me. And when it checks it out, it has this special icon over here, this green icon with an arrow pointing towards me, which basically means that this file is checked out to me. When I'm done, and at this point in time, if there's any other user who's working on this document, that user cannot access this. If there's any other user, they can access this file just as read-only. They cannot edit this file. The only time that they can go ahead and edit this file is when I check it in. So I check mark this. They can still, don't get me confused, they can still go ahead and download a copy and go ahead and read it. But if they try uploading a document with the same file name, then SharePoint will not accept it, because it knows that this file is checked out by you and no other user can modify or edit this document. Now when I'm done, I can go ahead and check it in. And now it asks me, retain your checkout after checking in, yes or no. And I can, by default it's always no, which is retain your checkout after checking it. Is when I'm checking in, I want it to be checked in. I'm saying that I'm done. So the comment over here is, hey, I added more items for buying furniture to the furniture list. Okay, and I click on OK, and now it's checked in. Now this means that other users can check it out and they can start using it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the version history. When versioning is enabled, SharePoint creates a separate copy of the document each time it is edited. You can have major versions as whole numbers 1, 2, 3, and minor versions as decimals like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc. Major version is associated with a version that has been published. When I say published, it means that it's visible to everybody. It's like a major version. It's now visible to everybody. Minor version is associated with a version that is in progress but not published, which means that it might not be available to everybody yet. Only to users who have a certain permission level. If it sounds pretty confusing, we're going to talk about all of this in the future, and a lot more details of it will be discussed. So as of right now, let's go ahead and see if my document library has got versioning enabled on it or not. So I go in furnitures over here, and then if I click on the ellipse over here, and if I click on another ellipse over here, it shows me these options over here, but it does not show me versioning details over here or not. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the library settings and enable the versioning. Click on library settings over here, and down at the bottom in the general settings, I click on versioning settings now. Clicking on versioning settings takes me to the versioning settings page. And right now, it says no versioning. If I click on create major and minor versions, then I have the option of saying how many major versions should be locally stored. So I'm going to say store 10 versions. After that, go ahead and delete the oldest version. And as far as drafts are concerned, again, store 10 draft versions as well. Scroll down, and I see required checkout as well. Now, in my case, I was able to, if you remember, I was able to upload a document, the furniture document, even though it already existed in my document library. Now, if I wanna, and SharePoint took it as well. When I uploaded a new version of the document furniture, then the document library took it. It did not say that, hey, you have to go ahead and check out this document first, which basically means that the checkout is not enforced. If I want to check out then first, then I go ahead and select this option, which is required documents to be checked out before they can be edited. Click on yes, and this is going to force the user to edit a document, to check out the document before it can be edited. Hit on OK, and we just save these two settings. Now let's go back to the furniture document library, and let's see if we see the option for viewing the history. Let me go ahead and refresh this. And now over here I see version history. This option was not available before. I click on version history for this furniture document, and it shows me only one single version, and it shows me my comments as well. Hey, I added more items to the furniture list. Now I'm going to go ahead and add or upload a new version of the furniture document. So let's go back to the furniture document. Oops, I think I opened up several different versions. I click on the version over here, and I write down more furniture items. Fix my typo here. And this is version 2, we know that. So I'm just going to write down version 2 over here. hit on save, cross it out, go back to my document library, and now I'm going to go ahead and try uploading it. Go in Files, click on Upload Document, click on Browse, and click on Furniture, and hit on OK. So it says that this document was uploaded successfully and is checked out to you. So what happened is that since checkout is mandatory, SharePoint is smart enough to see if this document has been checked out by anybody else. In this case, it was not. So it checked out to me. And it uploaded the new version of the furniture. I hit on Check-in, which basically means that I'm just saving it as well as I checked it in. And now what I have is a new version of the document. And to prove that, I'm going to click on the ellipse, find my way to the version history, and take a look at how many versions do I have right now. So I have 2 versions right now. I have the 1.0 version and I have the 1.1 version. Okay. And this way I can have 10 different versions of the same document. And the reason why it's 10 is because I configured 10 minor and 10 major. So in a way I can actually have 10 minor versions of 10 major versions. So it's almost like that's a lot of documents that I can actually see over here. So also, let's just say if I want to revert back to a previous version, so let's just say, so this is the latest version that I have right now. But if I think that, hey, you know what, the older version was the current version, then I click on it right here, and then I click on Restore. It says you are about to replace the current version with the selected version. Hit on OK. And it gives me an error message saying that, hey, you're trying to restore it, but you didn't check it out. You must first check out this document before making changes. And again, this is because I made checkout a mandatory step. So I'm going to go ahead and check it out either by checking it out from here, or I can click on checkout right here. It's the same thing. Once I check it out, it turns green with an arrow mark. Now I'm going to go back to version history. And so now I actually have 3 versions, which is pretty much the first 2 versions are pretty much the same ones. So now I'm going to go ahead and restore back to this version over here. Restore. Hit on OK. And now this basically means that the latest document that I have is this over here. I hit on F5 and let's go ahead and check it in right here. And I can make this version 2.0, which means that I'm publishing this version, which means that I'm making this available to everybody. And I'm saying write a comment which is going to be restoring to an older version of the document. Okay. And now let's go back and download the furniture and take a look at now what's actually stored in this. Is it the older version? Is it the newer version? What exactly is stored in here? Click on download a copy and click on open. It's going to download it and open up this document for me. Let's see what's stored in here. And this is the first version. Remember, I added more text to this document, which is not in here. So basically I just restored it back to a different version, to the first version. Again, I can just still go back to version history and restore the other version, which is this over here. Now this version actually had more details in here. So I can click on restore, hit on OK. Oops, it still gives me the same error message saying that, hey, make sure that you check it out before you make any kind of modifications. I checked it out. Now I'm going to go back to version history and restore this document. Click on restore, and it just restored my new document. And I'm going to go ahead and download a copy of furniture. Hit on open. And now that I restored the newer version, it has more details. So this is how SharePoint actually supports versioning. It's pretty strong. There are major versions, there are minor versions, and I can go ahead and publish it. And again, publishing is a very important concept in SharePoint, which we're going to learn a lot more down the line. And publishing makes it visible to everybody, even to those users who just have read access.